And we are live. Good evening, everybody. Hello, and welcome to Forever Sports. It is a Monday night, and we are back with our midweek live news show. The first time we've actually done this in quite a while because, unfortunately, for the last few weeks, I have been working pretty much only at night and getting evening shifts, which hasn't really helped in doing these. But we are back. We will be live tonight. We'll be live tomorrow as well. We will try and maybe also squeeze in a Wednesday night show, and potentially we could be back with our panel show on Friday. So exciting news as far as the live show and getting these sort of midweek shows going once again. Basically, though, if you are new for the show, basically over the next sort of hour or so, we're going to basically just talk a little bit about over the weekend. We're going to ask a few questions. We're going to look at the rugby news, what's happening around the world. We've got an injury update out of the Springbok camp. We've got a update on the supporter that the pitch invader on over the weekend. There's a record that the Springboks have broken or have taken away from them from the All Blacks from over the weekend. And kind of just look at some of the results over the weekend and what they could sort of mean. I think that look over the weekend, a couple of big results, and I want to look at this All Blacks record that they've broken, and I'll talk a little bit about it a bit later, because I think it's a frustrating one from the Springboks' point of view in terms of looking at just exactly why the All Blacks have really broken this record in the first place, because of the opposition they have played this year. It's nothing to do with being sour or anything like that. It's interesting when you look at sort of the opposition, stuff like that, who they play, what they played, and how it's all sort of finished. But yeah, so we've got a poll running in the comments, basically asking a very, very easy question, and we're going to talk a little bit about this right now. Should ELTON Yankees be starting versus Scotland this weekend? And something that's been debated quite a lot over the last few weeks in terms of, the starting lineup and who should be starting. And we're going to talk a little bit about that because the team is being announced tomorrow morning. So this is the only time we can talk about that. We can sort of discuss exactly what we can expect from the team announcement tomorrow when Jacques Nabar will name a side to face Scotland and Murrayfield this weekend. And I think it's going to be quite interesting to sort of see what the selections are, because if there was going to be a game to try and change the team up and rotate it a little bit, this probably would have been it. And especially on the back of winning the Welsh game, I think that that once again this continues to be the game that. And not to say that Scotland are an easy game. In fact, I think it's much for muchness who's playing Scotland versus Wales. But I think that there's too big a rivalry when it comes to the England game in the final week of the Autumn Nation Series for us to try and gamble and change sort of the team and make massive changes then. So if there was ever a time to sort of blood any players or change a few things up, tomorrow in the announcement, but this weekend would probably be the best time to try and do that. And it'll be interesting to see if we have done that, because it's the one thing that the Springbok coaching staff have been criticized for doing, I suppose, is maybe not necessarily rotating as much. And when I actually did a video saying that, in theory, it's actually not okay. That's not necessarily the case. We aren't. It's got nothing to do with the fact that they haven't blooded more or less than usual over sort of the past 12 years. The fact that not having last year's series has been the biggest sort of reason that we haven't been able to blood more players, bring more players into the setup, which has been one of the big major gripes from South African supporters over the years. The fact that we haven't rotated more, we haven't seen players like Apile Fasu, we haven't seen something like a Roscoe Specman hasn't had much chance. Somebody like Marco van Staden, for example, hasn't had as much game time as you probably like. And we haven't really sort of developed any sort of centers other than Lukanya and Damien Dealindi, who pretty much played every single game. Who is the successor of Willie Leroux? If Andre Paul doesn't play, do we have backup in the number 10 jersey? What's sort of happening there? So that's why I think tomorrow is going to be a very, very interesting team selection, because I think this is the last chance of the year, really, if you want to try and rotate things at all for this weekend. But yeah, let me get in the comments though. What would you like to see? Would you like to see us rotate this weekend? Would you like to see us, and then you have to start sort of asking yourself, are we going for this end of this series? Are we going win at all costs? Are we sitting there saying that we can the only thing we need to worry about this weekend is winning? or this entire sort of alternation series, or is there an element of trying to build squad depth? Where are we sitting there? Because as supporters, we can't jump up and down about lack of rotation, and then you do rotate players who are sort of fringe players and players that aren't as experienced, that then come up short, and then you sort of sit there blasting the coaching staff saying, why did you rotate? We need to win matches, So it's always that fine line of being able to rotate and build depth and also trying to get results. And that's where I think this is going to be interesting to see what the selection is tomorrow. But yeah, let's see who's in the comments. So Tristan says, let's hope this weekend the Boks are allowed to get sleep without several alarms and a hotel being set off like before a Wales match. Yeah, I'm always a little bit of off-field issues there. Hopefully we'll have none of that this weekend. If you didn't see that, though, the fire alarm went off twice in the early hours of the morning over the weekend, and each time the Springbok team had to be evacuated out of the hotel, and they were sort of left standing on the side of the road, and didn't get the best night of sleep. So hopefully we'll have none of those sort of issues this weekend. But you never know, unfortunately, with the way things go. But I mean, it's quite a common occurrence. Like you see it quite a lot in football with traveling teams, always sort of having stuff like hotels alarms going off, or fans setting off fireworks outside to try and sort of disrupt the team as much as possible. And I suppose it all comes sort of with the idea of creating a home advantage. Not so much that I'm not quite saying that the Welsh team is busy orchestrating this or orchestrated it, but fans will do whatever they can to try and put the opposition off. And if that means that they're going to go and set off fireworks and whatever, then that's what they might actually do. But yeah, good evening, Session. Good evening, Tian van den Berg. Do you know if Willems will be fit for the play this weekend? I'm going to talk about exactly who's fit and who's not, and what the story is right now. Hooper says, if you're going to start ELTON, do it now. It's the end of the season. If he's cut, put Polly back on. Done. I like the idea they don't easily can up. Bok Jersey says Alpha Lingen, and Louis says 1 change in front row and then 3 changes in the back row. So the title of the video, ELTON Young Star versus Scotland. So there is a rumor going around that there is a couple of interesting selections in the back. I don't know if it's a couple or one, but the rumor is that ELTON Yankees will be starting this weekend against Scotland. And I think it's pretty overdue, if you're going to be brutally honest. Regardless of whether you like him, regardless whether you rate him or not, Andre Pollard has probably not had his best season in the Springbok jersey. I thought he was much better this past weekend. And I think that, especially in terms of goal kicking, I thought it was much sort of more characteristic. You operate at 100% goal kick success rate, which is where you need to be. Really, as an international fly half, if you look back at our season, games we've often lost because we've missed a couple of kicks where our opposition haven't, for example. So it was good to see Andre Pollard kicking a lot better off the tee. But at the end of the day, we do need to look at depth. And that is one position that, we have only had one test the entire season where Andre Pollard has not started a fly half. Now, if Andre Pollard, who unfortunately doesn't actually have the best injury record, if he pulls a hamstring or, does his ACL again, for example, thankfully he actually didn't miss any games because of COVID stuff and the way it all sort of panned out, who is our first choice fly half? And right now it's ELTON Yankees. And if that is the case right now, and to be honest, I don't think there's anyone who's really pushing to come through, to be perfectly honest. I think we've got a couple of very young players, but there's a lot of injuries and around. I don't think there's anyone that's sort of putting their hand up saying we have you have to select me. So if that's not the case, you've got to then see what your second choice can do. And ELTON Yankees, even if you don't like him, you have to admit, has looked pretty good so far in his Springbok jersey. He looked pretty good in that SAA versus Bulls game. I thought he had a very nice game. He looked very good against Argentina. And looked very good against New Zealand when he came on towards the last stage of the game. So he's overdue a start. And I think that against Scotland, I think this is a time where we can sort of rotate a few players and try and get into the Scottish side, who play a very nice brand of rugby. They beat Australia this weekend, so you can't underestimate them. It's not the Scotland of old. This is a very good side under Gregor Townsend. In fact, I love watching them play rugby. I think, Scotland, you look back at the Six Nations, 1 or 2 results literally were decided by a couple of points. If they'd gone the other way, then they could have actually won the Six Nations. So it's definitely not, a case of we're playing against Scotland. Scotland aren't good, therefore we can rotate. That's not the case at all, because Scotland are a quality side. But this is the best time to rotate if you want to. And I think he has to start. I think we have to see what he can do. And I think that interested to sort of see what he goes with tomorrow, and whether that's the only change or whether we change throughout the back line. So Colin Elba says yes, that he will be starting. Henry Dubé says, do you think we will play another close game and also against England? Do you also think it's possible to dominate team regular with our playing style? Quite said, at the game on Saturday, amazing atmosphere. Yeah, I've heard some really, really good stories about this weekend. A couple of my mates went as well, so quite glad that you had a good time. But I heard some fantastic stories. Cardiff is definitely a bucket list place for me to go. I'm dreaming of being able to go on an end of year tour and be able to go to Cardiff or Murrayfield or Twickenham or go to Stade de France. And sort of see the Boks play in those sort of situations. But I know that Cardiff is a very popular destination for fans to go to. Hooper says, actually, Steve, I don't like Ultimate Polly has been cut. Let's give him a chance to prove his head is wrong or not, but at least we'll know. Ray says, what do you guys think is going to be the score on Saturday? Yako Menke says, I'd like to see Renach, Yankees, and Fussy in the starting team for this weekend with Spoo back on the wing. France will move to 10 if Pollard runs into trouble as a stopgap right now. Hooper agrees with Yako Menke's. What do you guys think is going to be the score on Saturday? So, yeah, I've got any score predictions and let me know. I don't know really. I need to see teams. I need to give my time. I hate giving score predictions, so give me as much information as possible. Renier de Villiers says, give Alton a go. For me, Polly is having it too easy at 10. Just remember, if it wasn't for Alton coming on against Seaton, the Boks would have lost the game. Who will your fullback be? We'll talk about that. What do you think of Creel filling Spoo's boost this past weekend? Alton at 10 says, no, about Key. Steve, what is your score prediction Saturday? Please tell us. I'll give you a score prediction this weekend. Well, close to the weekend anyway. I would say not be surprised. Creel was 5 out of 10 at best. His favorite player is playing his 50th test as well. Which favorite player now? Now I need to try and think about who's who in the zoo. I'm trying to see if that's sarcasm or not. I mean, Treyes has already played his 50th. So he's probably my genuine favorite player at the moment. There's a couple of players actually all around the 50 player mark. I think Franco Monster must be quite close. Actually, having said that, he's also. But yeah, so I think Alton. I think the league's pretty good. So I think that Alton will start this weekend. I think fullback. So in terms of team selection, Spoon Corsi is available for selection. Whatever the visa issue and stuff like that, it has been sorted out, and he will start. Well, no, he'll start, but he's available for selection this weekend. Dion Davis confirmed that earlier this weekend. Then Damien Willemse at this stage will not be available for this weekend. So it looks like there will be no Damien Willemse, which means there's a big call to make at fullback. So I think fullback, I wouldn't be surprised if we go back to Willie. I think we've got a very heaty debate going on in our WhatsApp group about Alton and who should be playing next to him and what's the story going to be. So it's going to be quite funny. We must get a panel discussion going this week. Fullback, yeah. Look, I think I'll be surprised if they go Apolline Fassi, and I'll tell you why. Because I've been called an Apolline Fassi hater, which is an example of people coming on the channel with not having watched much and then just making assumptions. But while I get these stats, I'll read out some of the comments, stuff like that. But where were we there? Yeah, so I reckon I think the fact that Franco Moss was in the press conference, I think indicates that he probably starts. Interesting to see if he's on the flank or if he's going back into the lock. I think Lucio is operating so well today. I'll be surprised if they change that. Tian van den Berg says Este isn't due for a call-up. Feel like our depth at 10 is a bit shallow. I agree. I think our depth is a bit shallow, and I think that Esterhazen has been. I've never been a massive Esterhazen fan, I must admit, but it's difficult to ignore the rugby he's playing at the moment. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if he does get a call up. I'd also like to see. I need to start watching more Premiership, but Janssen Hoofdstad is another option as well. I was a massive, obviously as a Lions fan, I was a big fan of Rowan Janssen van Rensburg, and I felt that he never quite had the chance that he needed in the Boks to make that sort of impact. So yeah, but Francois says Eben needs a rest. Well, there we go. I think you could go Leo Diago, Franco Master this weekend. That could be quite an easy lock combination. Give Eben the rest, and next weekend you could go Eben and Franco and give Leo Diago a rest. I think we've got three wings. Three locks who are so interchangeable in terms of quality. It really doesn't matter who starts between those three. Ray says, I feel we need to keep our discipline and place pressure on them from the kickoff and be a bit more appreciative after lines out by the line. Louis says Marvin might start. It's only 2 games left this year, so unlikely new players will get a call up. Estes and Calanto are just long overdue for a call up. I think Calanto will be back in the system next year. I think the way he's playing in Stormers, he's playing too well. And I keep saying that I think he is the Villy Larue replacement long term. I know they're looking at Apple Fasti. I know they're looking at Damian Williams, but I watch Warwick Calant and I just think, how can you not look at that as the long-term replacement? But having said that, France Stain obviously had a fantastic game over the weekend. And I'll be the first to admit that I think the way he played this weekend, I think that what I liked about this weekend is he didn't look off the pace running-wise. I think that even in that All Blacks game, we saw the boot of France Stain, but we didn't necessarily see whether he can keep up with the game. But this weekend, he looked much better in terms of being able to keep up with the game, because previous games we have seen him at centre, he has sometimes looked a bit slow, he has sometimes looked a bit heavy around the park. This weekend looked a lot better, and maybe France Stain can make the next World Cup. I do think it's pushing it, but if he can play like he played on Saturday, then why not? But regardless of whether he does make it, we do need to start looking at a long-term 15s option. And that's why they did start Damian Willemse. And I felt sorry for him, you're obviously not going to judge on what the 10 minutes he had, but I was excited to see him play because I think he deserved the chance. If he's going to be part of the squad and he's going to be backed, then he needs to get the chance to do something. Double says Spoon and Pimpy at wings, Fassi at 15. Rainier says, no, France Stain is looking good, man. Do you think we'll take the 6-2 split this weekend? I don't think so. What happened to Willemse? I didn't get why that took him off. He was injured. France crushed it though. Wish he had gotten more game time when he was in his prime. Yeah, no. So it was an injury to Damian Willemse. So it wasn't tactical or anything. I think it looked like an HIA the way he went down the tunnel. I'm not actually entirely sure what the injury was. I actually missed the press conference and I haven't had a chance to go through it all. But so let me just try and see where it was. Yeah, it wasn't concussion. So he has to go through this protocol. So he probably won't be available for this weekend. Greer says, man out here looking like a prop Nick. Rude, first of all. I reckon I could pull out I'm not a prop Nick White. I mean, come on. I look the size maybe, but the hands are still very much far. Yeah, look, we've got to do a bit of November. It's pretty terrible at the moment. We are only a couple of days in. Unfortunately, I had to shave late as well for a wedding. So by the end of the month, we'll be looking much better. Nick White, I'll take him in a fight as well. Tim van den Berg says defensive positioning is so crucial in the back three, especially for the box. Feel like putting Fassi at fullback without the experience of someone like Willie next to him would be a mistake. I think that's a very important comment. So the reason I was saying that I think that there is a little bit of worry around Apelele Fassi, and I think Tim van den Berg has pretty much nailed it on the head there. If we look at Apelele Fassi's career, this is where I think the worry comes in. So if we're looking at the 2021 season, 14 games and over 1,000 minutes, he made 25 tackles and missed 17 at a tackle success rate of 60%. In 2020, he played 7 games, 500 minutes, tackle success rate of 65%, making 64 tackles and missing 14. 2019 was probably his best season tackle-wise, 74%. So there is a few question marks around Apelele Fassi's defensive abilities, and I think that especially as we're talking about in terms of defense, the system and the way that the Springboks operate, I think you are throwing him in front under the bus, not necessarily under the bus. Look, you can play him, and if they want to risk him, but I think that's why there's been that hesitancy to just go straight. Fantastic, he's playing well at fullback for Sharks. Let's give him a go at fullback for the Boks. He has played 2 games on wing. He's looked very, very good. With no Damian Willemse, if they still don't go Willie Leroux, you're either starting France Stain this weekend or you are going Apelele Fassi, which would be very interesting. So a funny thing I was thinking about today and the other day is if had Jesse Creel stayed at fullback, I wonder where he would. I wonder if he'd still be playing fullback and he'd be playing for the Boks. Because I remember watching Jesse Creel come through the setup at fullback and just watching a few games and just sitting there looking and thinking, that's a hell of a player. I mean, I remember being a Lions fan thinking if I could have one player from the Bulls at stage, Jesse Creel at fullback was the one. He looked so good. at fullback. So I do think in many ways, I think he might have actually had a better look. I mean, it's difficult to say he's had a bad career. I think he's got 40 odd tests, JC Creel, and he had a couple of he's got 48 caps, 50 caps potentially actually this weekend if he does play. But I think that at the moment, he can't get ahead on the Kanya and I wonder it would have been interesting to see what his case career would have been like had he stayed at fullback. So at one stage, he was the best fullback in the country. And a lot of people have actually been reflecting on that in the last week about they actually missed Jesse Creel at fullback. Because I thought that Jesse Creel wasn't, I don't think it was spectacular on the weekend. I think they targeted him a few times under the high ball. Didn't have a lot to do with ball in hand. So it's always difficult. Our wings generally don't get a lot of ball in hand. So, like a Chesn Colby can create something out of nothing. Jesse Creel doesn't have that sort of X-factor acceleration, pace, or step. He's far more sort of a powerful runner. But defensively, he's very solid. So I think that's why they went with him. But I don't think he had a great game. I thought him and Herschel were, ironically, the two people who got opportunities, struggled. But at the same time, it's very difficult to be harsh on players who haven't played rugby. I mean, the last time JC Creel played must have been, did he play Argentina? I think he played Argentina, which was in August. So he hasn't played rugby for 3 months, basically. So it's always so difficult to sort of, you finally get a start, you have a lukewarm game, and everyone's like, right, cool, cheers, you had your chance. And I know it's difficult in international rugby to sort of say to get a couple of games in the run. But it is difficult for players who aren't playing a lot of rugby to then just come on, start, and be able to turn it on like that. So I think Spur Corsi probably goes back to the wing. I think we did miss him. I think he does have that explosive pace. I think he's very good under the high ball, which and his kick chase is pretty second to none, to be honest. He was so good during the Rugby Championship with the way he kicked chase down kicks. So Louis Reck is going to be Reinach, ELTON, Fassi, Creel, Spoo and Villy. So he's going Creel at inside centre. I don't think we'd see that. Villy at full back. Guido says, will France Day be able to keep up with the Scottish pace? Well, we have to wait and see, won't we? Drop Herschel, bring in Grant. I like Grant Williams. I do like Grant Williams. I don't think Herschel had the best game. If you were going to give Grant Williams a chance, it would be this weekend. Difficult though to bring on someone for their debut in what could be quite and this was the thing. I think what people also need to realize: starting and not starting does not mean your starting 15 is not your best 15 players anymore. We need to start getting over this mentality. We need to start broadening our horizons and start realizing that it's a bit old school thinking. Being in the starting 15 does not mean you are better than the player on the bench. A lot of it's got to do with tactics. A lot of it's got to do with impact. And in many ways, it's kind of like a new sort of system where, for example, players coming back from injury, they often start. Because if they start from injury and after 20 minutes or 25 or 35 minutes, they're completely gassed, you can bring them off. And you can put somebody else on that you can rely on. Whereas in the last 25 minutes, close game, or last 20 minutes, or last 10 minutes, do you want to be putting somebody on for their debut? Do you want to say to Grant Williams, right, chap, we've got 4 points in it. I need you to go out and see out a game for the first time international rugby ever up against Ali Price, British national Lion, Finn Russell, and say, right, I know that Scotland are currently 2 points ahead of us, or we're 2 points ahead of him. You need to see out a game. Have a fun debut. Whereas sometimes, I think that's what we saw this weekend. Herschel Yankee started. He didn't have the best of games. And then Kubus Reynolds came on and made a big difference. Starting and bench does not necessarily mean that one is better than the other. It's like the whole thing about Malcolm Marx. Everybody, week on, week out, I read comments of Malcolm needs to start. He's too good to be on the bench. And that's the whole thing. You look at the playing minutes. Malcolm Marx has played more minutes than any other hooker in the Springbok setup this year. He has. So our best hooker has played the most minutes. So why not? But him and Bongi Mbonambi tend to play, 38 or 42 minutes either way. They play pretty much the same amount of minutes. You look at Malcolm Marx, Rugby Championship, he played 6 out of 6 games, 240 minutes across them. British and Irish Lions, he played 4, including the SAA, played all 3 tests there. So he's got a lot of minutes, whereas he actually had more minutes than Bongi Mbonambi. So I think Kubus Reynolds does start this weekend. I think that the way he played over the weekend, I think he does start. And I think that especially if ELTON's playing, I think those two could be a very nice combination. But Herschel and ELTON also have quite a nice little chemistry going there. But I just think we just need to move away from that thinking that if someone's on the bench, it means that they're they're worse than the person that started. And that's not always the case. You know, there are often so many more reasons than just he's better, so he's starting. Look at how well look at the balance we've found in our starting front row compared to our replacement front row and how good our scrummaging. I mean, is the South Africa scrum the best scrum in the world at the moment? There are very few games this year where we haven't been completely dominant come scrum time. We've taken most scrums that we've come up against and definitely dominated them. We dominated the British and Irish Lions pack. We dominated Wales this weekend, front row wise. We dominated Scotland. I mean, not Scotland, Argentina. Australia mashed us a couple of times, but we still did have some very good moments front row wise. Same with New Zealand, we had very good moments front row wise. So, you know, you're not going to sit there and say, well, maybe Vincent Cox better than Trevor and Nikani. I don't think there's much between them, but I think it's combinations. I think those three compared to those two coming off the bench are just working so well. So Guido says you can't bench Fassi because that will be risky. I think Jesse was a bit chaotic on this weekend. He looked like a man who hadn't seen a lot of rugby, to be honest. Spas says Renock and Pollard is pros better as Renock and Yankees. Yankees combo is dope, but Herschel's kicking game is not where it needs to be. Would love to see some more ELTON on the field, though. Alves says Connor's improved massively at home. That could be a stronger than Wales. Strong bench is a must for this game. Kubis knows the UK conditions, says Kwasi. Is Dreber in the squad? Yes, he is. I like Dreber's carry game, but his throws are scary. Yeah, look, he needs to develop that side of his game. And that's something we've seen a marked improvement with Malcolm Marks, actually. He's been throwing it a lot better. I think he had the best accuracy in the Rugby Championship, which is good to see because it's something that was a bit of an issue for him back in the 2019 World Cup. Double says, will be interesting to see in 2022 who's the next in line for 2013 jersey. Can Stan Creel make 2022 squad? Not sure. Well, look, I mean, Jesse Creel, age-wise, is definitely making the 2023 World Squad. It's just a case of form, isn't it? And I reckon if Jesse Creel really wants to get the SF public back on his back behind him and sort of put himself on the front foot, I think he needs to move back to South Africa. Because I think the problem is that he's busy playing over in Japan, and we don't see what's going on. We don't watch it. And even if he does play well, people are going to sit there saying it's the Japanese league. You know, regardless of whether it is a good league or not, there is that sort of stigma attached to it. And you then come into the Springbok squad and you maybe have an average game, people are going to sit there saying, well, why is he there? And there's already been cause to sit there saying, why is Jesse Creel in the squad? So it is interesting. But I think that, as I said earlier, Jesse Creel could play his 50th game for the Springboks this weekend, as could Franco Mostert. So he's a quality player. I think he's just a little bit. I think his Springbok career has kind of been a bit derailed. And you think about injuries. Injuries play a massive role. You know, the fact that he suddenly had to cross. I mean, people on my WhatsApp. I mean, look at these essays. I mean, essays. I don't know if you guys can see this. No, hardly not. People are like busy writing theses about this weekend's selection. I need to get into this later. But how can I join the conversation? Can I be added on those WhatsApp? Listen, if you've got like 4 hours during your day to jump in, then yeah, we can operate. But yeah, oh goodness me. Oh, by the way, we have to wrap this up in 25 minutes because I'm going to be hit by load shedding. So life as a South African, isn't it? Contender says, good evening, Contender says, I would have 9 Renock, 10 Yankees, 12 Polly / Lindy, 13 11 Fassi, 14 France Stain, Jesse Creel 15, Williams 21, Polly Lindy 22, Mapimpi 23. I don't think we'll see Pollard and Yankees starting this weekend, but we could. And it would be interesting if we do. I don't think you'll ever see France on the wing. I don't even know if he's ever played with rugby on the wing, maybe a couple of times, but not in recent weeks. I mean, recent years. Use your words, but yeah, I do like the idea of a Pollard Yankees combo, and I do like the idea of sort of that second playmaker. I don't think ELTON needs it. A lot of people saying that he needs it. That's a lot about what the conversations going on the WhatsApp group is. I don't think he necessarily needs a playmaker outside him. Yeah. Christy, thank you very much for the super sticker. I really appreciate it. That's the first super chat or super sticker we've had in a long time, actually. So thank you so much. I really do appreciate the support. Yeah, one of the OGs. People, please do smash like on the video and subscribe to the channel as well, by the way. We are flittering around whether we can get to 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year. You know, we need 1,106 subscribers to get to 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year, which would be pretty flippin' sensational if we did do it. yeah, if you haven't, please do subscribe. If you've got any friends or family or dogs, or if you run an Instagram if you run an Instagram account or YouTube account for your dog or fish or whatever, tell them to just subscribe, because everyone counts. Coach, it'll be fun to see what ideas the groups give. To be honest, it's mostly just laughing at the Sharks fans when they lose, the WhatsApp group, and then everybody just mocking me about Earl Rose playing for the Lions. Yeah, I get brutalized in this WhatsApp group. It's actually not fair. It's actually not fun. I mean, people just don't respect me. Never respected. Never respected. Flamelo says, are there any Springbok jersey deserving centers in our SA franchise now, except for Werner Koch and Hendrickse? Springbok jersey deserving centers. Well, Hendrickse isn't playing in the centers. I think I want to see the Similani. Yeah, last couple of weeks hasn't been phenomenal. He hasn't played as much as I'd like to see him, but I think if we look at him over the last year, definitely should be playing center. Could be playing center for the Springboks. I think that Cornel Hendricks, obviously, if it wasn't for the medical issues, should be operating for the box center as well. Could very well be playing that. After that, I mean, even Werner Koch had a couple of really good games, but I don't think he's been great so far in the URC. And yeah, I think it's just there's not much consistency in our SS centers at the moment, is there? Lionel Poo and Harold Forster look pretty good for the Bulls, but I wouldn't say smashing doors down. I think Dan Duplessis, Rick Pretorius, they've had decent games. They've also had average games. So it's, yeah, I think center's an issue. But I do think that probably overseas-wise, your options in the likes of a Surfontaine, the likes of a Jans van Rensburg, Andre Esterhazen, there are definitely options out there. At the moment, I think our second inside center options are, unfortunately, at the moment we don't actually have out and out backups for inside center. You've got Pollard who could play there, France Dank could play there, Damian Williams who could play there. So I wouldn't say we don't have anybody who plays at their franchise at inside. I suppose France Dank does at inside center within the squad. So it definitely is a position we need to look at in terms of our depth. Which Jesse Creel's playing for the Lions this season? No, Jesse Creel. We've got Jaco Creel on the flank. Dan Creel, who's Jesse Creel's brother, was the Lions, but he has now gone overseas. Would be good to see what passionate fans think that give Sharks some advice. I don't think. I don't know how much. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just trying to briefly look at what's going on this WhatsApp group, and there's just a lot of stuff being going. Even for Ewan says Fassi Ray needs to start this weekend. The poor guy doesn't get his fair chance. He's had plenty of time though. Fassi is 23 years old. He's got plenty of years, many years ahead of playing Springbok rugby. I'm not worried about Fassi. Can we talk about what a shit Ben Smith at rugby pass is? Yeah, we know about Ben Smith. He's a bit like that South African journalist who will not be named, who just talked crap the entire Lion series. There are certain people who just like to be controversial because obviously their talent doesn't come through if they're not. And if that's what you have to do, that's what you have to do. It's just they just write a lot of crap, don't they? What's the update on the Rugby case? There is no update as far as I know. Surely we must be getting a verdict this weekend. I mean, the fact that we are sitting in November and there still is not a verdict on something which happened in July just blows my mind. But what can you do? World Rugby are hopeless, and we unfortunately have got no other option. This is why Bill Beaumont should have been voted out. We could have had the Argentine chap, and life would have been a lot better, I reckon. Since fast end of the high ball and defense skills will prove useful versus German Phenomenal. Kicking could be crucial. Pollard and Creel got tried 2018 versus Scotland and Tupaluto. Yeah, look, I just don't think fast hand's got the pace to play on the wing. Fullback for me is where he will operate. I don't even think he should be at centre. I think fullback is where we've seen the best rugby from in the Springbok jersey. Louis going Herschel, Alton, ran on the wing. Damien, Havenspoo, Fassi. Yeah, we won't see Korsanek on the wing. Jimenez says, I was thinking the other day about Raymond Roulet. 30. He's been in great form last season in France. Yeah, I said a couple of, I think I did a video of players not in South Africa. I think I did a non-South African based 23. And it's I had Raymond Roulet at 13, I think. Or did I? Yeah, I think I had him at 13. He's been playing some fantastic rugby for La Rochelle. I watched a couple of games, and it's amazing for somebody who, for years, was ruled off because he can't defend. How phenomenal his defensive capabilities have become, and how much he's improved in that that aspect of his game. Right. Well, we've got people. If you need the team news, we've got Jaco Johan in the chat. The Jaco Johan, the famed Jaco Johan. So he reckons 1, 2, 3, 4 say the same. 5 direct swap with Lurt with Franco. 6, 7, 8, 9 the same. 10 Altons with Polly. He's going to 22. Apparently 11, 12, 13, 14 the same. 15 Villy. 16, 17, and Lurt at 19. 20, 21, 23 same. 2021. Well, there we go. That's the inside track. Jaco Johan reckons that Lurt is coming in for Franco. That Alton's coming in for Pollard. Villy's coming in for Willemse. Pollard's gone to 22. I mean, when was the last time Pollard played on the bench for the Boks? That must be years if he is on the bench. Lurt's gone off to the bench to 19, and then 21 was Kurbis, so that remains the same. 22 becomes Pollard. 23 will be Frans Steyn. So yeah, well there we go. That could be the leaked news, people. You could have it. You might have heard it here first. Katena says versus Tupeluto is a clash to be relished. Unbeat Harris in the Lions series, and Lex. It's been a while. Yeah, Lex awesome playing well. Quas is on a different note. Do any of you have any idea of who we will play France? Apparently, I saw that. I think one of the websites got a schedule to play France next year. Frothing for that. France. Look, Argentina played very, very well this weekend. Actually, very nice to see Argentina. There was actually some nice rugby games. I was upset that I sort of only could watch half the games because Scotland versus Australia looked like a nice game. I was playing cricket, so I didn't actually watch it. So I need to watch the catch up. But Argentina and France, I watched about 50 minutes of it. It was a very nice game. Apparently, Italy actually played pretty well against New Zealand. Obviously, they did get blown away in the end, but they did play pretty well, apparently. Ruben says, thoughts on the Springbok fullback situation? Funny how a 34-year-old Frans Steyn is our best performer there. Who do you think will be a start this weekend at fullback? Well, apparently, leaked news is Villy. Albert says, World Rugby doesn't want the Rusty thing in the public eye and hopes it would go away by itself. Literally. But everyone's sitting there saying, we want answers. Maybe it's a case if we can't handle the truth. Frans Steyn scored in the wing on his debut. It had been tried and tested in Super Rugby in 2006, 2007, Jake White versus... but Frans Steyn in 2006, 2007 had probably one of the best steps inside him in World Rugby, and he was fast. Since then, Frans Steyn has put on about 25 kgs, and Fussy on the bench, says Tom Hitchcock. Contender says Pollard was last off the bench versus Canada. He came on for the end at 13. He and France swapped center. Well, there we go. Appreciate you. You see, it's useful having you guys in the chat. Christian Diago Ox should play 10. Look, he did say on Twitter that if he were to play the back line, that he'd operate at 10. And I'd back him. I'd back Ox at 10. Carly says he doesn't recognize the real Jaco Johan. Well, there we go, people. Full disclaimer, it's not me. Just in case anybody wanted to know. I don't think anybody thought it was me, but I'll just put it out there as not. I wouldn't mind getting those HD clips, though. We could check it on the channel. But what else I want to talk about the Springboks losing that record to New Zealand. So tomorrow, obviously, we'll have the team announcement, and we will be live tomorrow night. So we can talk about all this in more detail. So tomorrow night's entire show will be dedicated to talking about the team. But this is the situation. So those are what the injuries are. There's no Willemse. Spoon Corsi's back. Apart from that, I think everyone should be available. I think Franco Mostert should start. And it sounds like ELTON Yankees will be starting, but we'll know more. The team will be announced at 1:30 tomorrow. If you are a member of the Fair Sports Members Club, you can watch the press conference live on the channel. And otherwise, the press conference will be up later, but obviously we will have a video up very quickly in terms of who's in the lineup, and we'll go through it tomorrow, and then we'll go and dissect it in the evening. But what I want to talk about is the fact that the All Blacks have taken a record off the Springboks. And that is the most points scored in a calendar year. And it's the record that we had was, here we go. I don't remember exactly what it was, but here we go. So New Zealand scored 96 tries in 2021, breaking Argentina's record of 92 set in 2003, with their points tally now stands 675, which eclipsed the South African 658 point haul from 2007. So with their win against Italy, the All Blacks have officially scored the most points in a calendar year. However, what I would like to look at is and I'm not very organized, so I'm actually gonna have to busy trying to Google on the spot here. Is the opposition, so the All Blacks have got a record of 675 points this year. But I want to look at who they've played this year, because I think if you do look at who they've played this year, it's been a bit childish in terms of the opposition. So, I think that does need to be taken into consideration before too many New Zealand fans get far too loud. There are some very nice New Zealand fans on the channel. There are also some ones which, let's just say, we don't see eye to eye all the time. I just want to find a list of Springbok matches. Is that too much to ask? What's the chat? That's current squad. Apparently, it is too much to chat. Springbok match list, Wikipedia. Yeah. Right, so the All Blacks this year. This is what I want to talk about. In fact, no, let me try and see if I can get. Here we go. 2007. Right, so this is when we set the record, and this is who we played in 2007. We beat England 58-10 in June. We then beat England 55-22. We then beat Samoa 35-8. We then beat Australia 22-19. New Zealand 21-26 down. Australia 25-17. We went down. New Zealand then beat us 33 points to 6. We then put 105 points on Namibia and 27 points to 3 against Scotland. We then played Samoa once again. I think that was in the World Cup. We beat England 36-0. We beat Tonga 30-25. We beat Fiji 37-20, Argentina 37-13, and England 15-6, and then Wales 12 points to 34 in that final test in the end of the year. So that's all. That was the opposition. We played 17 games. We won 14. We lost 3. So the non sort of tier 1 nations were Samoa twice, Namibia, Tonga, Fiji. So I'd say 5 games against non-tier 1 nations. The All Blacks this year have played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So they have done it with 5 games fewer, which is fair. But if we are looking at who they've played this year, this is where it gets a bit childish. Tonga, 102-0. They then beat Fiji 57 points to 23 and 60 points to 13. So their mid-year series was against Tonga and 2 games against Fiji. That's 200 points itself, by the way. 200 of the 600 points came across 3 games against Tonga and Fiji. They then had the Blessed World Cup. They had 3 matches there. Fair enough. Against Argentina, against Australia, the one was 57 points 22, 38 points 21, 33 to 25. The Rugby Championship, they didn't actually have too many massive wins except for that 39-0 against Argentina. Obviously, the Bok games were pretty close. But what I will say is that, you've played USA now 104 points to 14. They then beat Wales outside the test window, by the way, so it wasn't the strongest Welsh start, 50 points to 16. So we played 5. I said it was about 5, Fiji, Tonga, Samoa twice, and Namibia. We played 5 non-tier 1 nations during that year. The All Blacks have played Tonga, Fiji, it's 3 times. They've also already played 5. They've got Italy, then they've had Italy this weekend, which they obviously beat quite well. Ireland versus France. So they have beaten the record fair and square. But I do think if you look at the opposition, playing against the USA, that 104-14, and then to play Wales outside the test window, it's just a bit frustrating, isn't it? But each their own. Look, we're definitely not going to break the record anytime soon. But I thought it was interesting to look at that. But yeah, we're going to wrap up pretty soon because unfortunately I'm about to be plunged into the dark over here. But Albert van Lingen says, love how France bounced off guys and tackles. Contender says, my Packers, Kitsoff, Dweber, Koch, Ori, Mostert, Khaleesi, Van Staden, flank is flank, Visa, bench, 16 marks, and Nikane. I don't think they will rest too much. I mean, they did have a couple of weeks off down here. So I don't think we'll see a lot of changes. But you never know. Carter says, nice to have Rusty here. It was great to see him back in the box. Charles says, I watched the Namibia game on one of our school trips. I think that's the game that Namibia scored first with an intercept. Look, they could well have. You're talking about a game that happened back in, 2007, I was 11. Can't say I'm going to remember a Namibian game in 2007 particularly well. but so you could very well be right. Since every prop G's play 10 in the back line, a swing prop as akin to a beast to his Filipino kind of style. Davidas Luis has also thought Jessica had an average game, but if you think about it, he hasn't played any rugby last 6 months. Can we really expect him to do well in that game? Yeah, that's what I was saying, that, it's difficult. It's always difficult. But we're going to pretty much wrap up there. News-wise, there's nothing on Rassie Erasmus, which is very frustrating. The pitch invader, though, that ran onto the pitch on Saturday, I don't think it did stop a try. I think the more you look at it, I think that Liam Williams had overrun it slightly and had to pick up from behind it. So I don't think that they necessarily guaranteed would have scored a try and won that game. I think that's probably a bit of a stretch. But he has been handed a lifetime ban. Eddie Jones has also called out Emma Raducanu, who's obviously the winner of the US Open, and said that Fane's got to her head and that Marcus Smith must not go down the same road. But yeah, so I think Eddie Jones is in the mud with that. I think that's horrendous. I mean, who calls out? Imagine calling out an 18-year-old girl who has just won the US Open, gets a whole bunch of endorsements. She's lost 2 games. I think she didn't do well in the Indian Wells. She lost in the, I think it was Transylvania Open. And now you're sitting there saying that she is an example of, and she is a good warning to Marcus Smith to stay grounded, because Marcus Smith is going to get all these endorsements and he's going to drop off the planet. I think Eddie Jones has gotten that so wrong. Yeah, I thought it was a very stupid thing for Eddie Jones to say. So he's a little bit in the mud. A lot of people have come out against him, and I'm with them. I think that it was really stupid to mention her. I think it was really poor taste. Apart from that, in the rugby world, there's not actually that much going on, unfortunately. So in terms of your news, there's not too much more. Catch up from last week. I don't know if you guys saw, but Roscoe Specman has joined the Stormers once again. So he'll be there for the rest of the URC and stuff like that. I know that Ken Owens has been ruled out for the rest of the Automation series. I'm not sure if there's anything else that we've missed in the last day or two. That's pretty much a couple of headlines about what's going around. S-Box says, Cocos for sissies, beer, please. Yeah, well, beers for the weekend. Come on, we've got to earn our beers over the week. Luis says, France, we might get 3 World Cup under his belt, imagine. Carlos says, rumor has it, I am Neko Johan. Well, prove it. We're not going to believe you. We can't go on rumors. We deal in facts on this channel. Facts that have been checked and rechecked. Alpha Lingan says, Boca 27, Scotland 18. I think Eddie Jones took more of a jab at media in general, though. Yeah, I just think that it was just a weird thing to bring it in. I mean, I don't know, how can you be his age and even mention an 18-year-old girl who's won the US Open? It's just a bizarre thing to even mention. I mean, if I won the US Open, I think I'd probably retire. I'd live my endorsements. What have you done? Where's your tennis major? No, you don't have one. Exactly, I do. I just thought it was a really strange thing to do to even mention it. Container's got a young guns backline of Christie, Smith, Jordan Hendricks, Tupelo, Fassi, Johan, Jordan. Who is yours? I'm not going to try and come up with on the spot, but Hendricks is a fly half for me. Louis going SA 21-20. So I did a poll to see should ELTON Yankees start this weekend. 151 people have voted, and it is an overwhelming yes. 70% of people have said that ELTON Yankees should start this weekend. We'll find out tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon, actually. The team announcement is a +1. If you would like to watch the team announcement live, then you will have to become a Forever Sports member, but the press conference will be available later on in the afternoon. Apart from that, people, please do keep very well. Please do keep safe. Get your vaccine sorted, because we're going into stadiums in 2 weeks' time. I'm hoping to try and get tickets to either Lions game or the Bulls game. Hopefully we can get tickets sorted there. But we'll see you guys tomorrow night. We'll be going through the Specman style. We'll be putting it apart or praising it and deciding what we can expect this weekend. And then hopefully we'll be live again on Wednesday. I need to find out what time I'm playing football, but maybe we'll try and work something around that. Load shedding is making things a little bit more complicated, so please bear with us if we are a little bit late with certain uploads and stuff like that. All the South Africans know the struggle. But we'll make sure that this weekend, don't worry, we'll be live regardless of what's going on. We will make plans our side. Smash like on the video on the way out. Subscribe to the channel. See you guys all very soon. It's been fantastic to be back here on the midweek show. So let's keep it up. Let's keep it up. Let's have another good one tomorrow, and let's hope we can try and get some momentum. And yeah, on the road to 10,000 subscribers, do play your part, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.